Welcome, Model Railroad Talk fans. In this video, we are going to be talking about FastTracks. We had a request to show the FastTracks turnouts that I'm using. We are also going to be showing you, or talking about using keyed switches. Yes, I said keyed switches on your railroad, how I use them for my turnouts. And we're also going to be talking about circuit breakers that we talked about in, I believe it was episode 81, episode 82, something like that, of our audio podcast. So stick around because we're going to get this show on the tracks. Welcome, my friends, to this video of Model Railroad Talk. I had a comment regarding they wanted to see the FastTracks turnouts. And like we said in the intro, I'm going to show you the FastTracks turnouts compared to an Atlas Code 83. And I believe I've got I'm not sure what brand this is. It's either a Walthers or a Pico. It's a Sinohara. And yes, I'm going to show you the circuit breaker I'm using and a keyed switch that I'm using on the layout. And, but first, how did you like that opening video montage in between the intro and this? Our good friend Eric at War Bonds channel. He created one for his, and I really liked the style. I liked how it was. I know I said I wasn't going to get fancy with these videos because I don't have a lot of time to do extra stuff. I reached out to him. I sent him some content and he put that together. So Eric, if you watch this, thank you. I personally like it. It's simple and to the point. But anyways, moving forward. So let's start with the FastTracks turnouts. What is FastTracks? If you're unsure, FastTracks turnout is, if you look them up, it's handlaidtrack.com, I believe is what their web address is. But it's basically a system that FastTracks group of guys came up and created FastTracks to where we can have hand-laid turnouts in a sense, but in an easier way. And not just turnouts, they have track and basically you can use jigs that they have made that you can purchase. You can buy all your supplies there. Microengineering, like I'm using Microengineering Code 83, or that's what my turnouts are. You can buy the PC board ties from them. You can buy regular ties. They have tie kits. They make it simple. Randy D, actually, a guy that's not really local, but relatively close to me. I had him make these up and I paid him. It is something that I'm looking at getting into down the road once my railroad's built and stuff like that. I may look into start building these if I need to start replacing turnouts on the layout. But somebody asked to show them what the FastTracks turnouts look like. And obviously you'll see the PC board ties in there, which those are soldered to help keep the rail gauge and stuff. But if you look at the frog, look at how much more realistic that frog looks. Let me grab, let's see here. Where's the Atlas one? So like an Atlas Code 83, if you compare the frogs, they obviously more realistic. The other thing too is your rails that go from the frog to the point. On these, this one is a single, like the real railroads. It's a single rail. So as it moves, you've got continuous rail through there. There again, the Atlas Code 83 or the Atlas brand, you have right here, you have hinge points that, yeah, they work, but through time, they could get corroded and stuff like that, and then you lose continuity conductivity through there. But also at the points are more realistic in how far they really are. In real life, they don't move that far. See how that moves just very little, whereas take the Atlas Code 83 or the Atlas, see how much more movement there is. So that is one advantage of going that route. And even the Sinoharas, they still have right up here. Yeah, it's farther back, but they still have it's split rail. It's not connected, and they have a little bit less play than the Atlas, but their points are a little more realistic, but still nothing like the FastTracks. Check them out. FastTrack, like I said, I'm pretty sure it's handlaidtrack.com. I've been on their website numerous times. You can buy all the rail. What is it? N scale, HO, O. They have all the narrow gauge stuff on there too. And of course, this baby I've talked about. This is my double crossover that's going on to that Randy D. Thank you again if you watch this, Randy. That's going into my last yard. And just the exquisite detail. And while I understand it does take a little more time and what's in the end, and installing them, they are a little more delicate. So you do have to put a little more finesse into installing them. But the ones that I've actually installed to replace my Atlas ones, world of difference in operation. Not only look, but operation. They're just way more reliable of a turnout. So next, we are talking about keyed switches. I got this idea from an article I read, and they were using mechanical ones to lock out their turnouts. So like the main line. So as an example right here, I actually have with the system on, like if I flip the switch, it throws my turnouts. You can hear it, right? But if I put the key in and I have it in the off position, it won't do anything. Okay. So you're probably thinking, well, why would you want that? Why would a person want to shut off the power to the turnouts? It's for operations. Okay. I am eventually, when I get to that point, when I'm operating, my mainline turnouts are all going to be keyed off and to the off position. And then if somebody needs to go into a siding or what have you, they'll have to get permission from a dispatcher, and then they'll be allowed to, unlock it in a sense like the conductors do. They unlock a padlock to throw a switch. That's real railroading. That's how I simulate that. Is it needed? No. I could put in a whole bunch of wiring and hook it up to the computer, or a whole bunch of circuit boards and, let a dispatcher actually do it. But my railroad isn't big enough, and it's not going to be moving, in a sense, that much freight on a constant basis to have all the electronics and the wiring ran, right? So this is just a simple way. I got these off Amazon. I want to say it was like a 6-pack to a 10-pack, something like that, for, I don't know, 10 or 12 bucks. You get, and you get this, but it doesn't have the wires on it. I had to solder the wires on it, and you get a key, actually 2 keys for each lock. And as you can see, it just goes in and you can unlock it, and you can even lock it or unlock it and pull the key out. Now this is just an electrical switch. So where I ran it, where my main power is going into my turnout or my switch here, all I did was basically cut that wire and put the one end here and the one end here, soldered it in, installed the lock, and it works. I also am using it, if you look right here, I don't know how well, it's not probably focusing, but for my crossing, okay? I wanted to do that because I wanted to be able to shut off my crossing. As an example, you can see I have 2 locomotives up here. This will be a whole nother video, but I've got my scale trains locomotive and my Intermountain, and I was trying to get my Intermountain or my scale trains matched up to my Intermountain. It's not quite working, so I don't mind. I like how the scale trains is running, physically running, so I'm actually going to start matching my Intermountains up to those. But like in this case, if I turn this on, you can see my flashers working, right? But I want to be able to shut it off. So if I'm doing stuff like this, I don't have them going off and whatnot. And, like electronics, they do wear out eventually. I do actually have another key up top here, which goes to my bell sound. I don't know how well you'll be able to hear it through my mic, but that way, if I'm, say, operating and I don't feel like having the bell, or if somebody's coming over and, oh yeah, you want to hear the bell when the crossing goes off, that kind of thing. So the key switches are something to think about, and you don't have to use them for just your turnouts. But I wanted to go, and here's the other thing, I wanted to go the key switches because if you look right here and right here, see how flush they are? I mean, they only stick up basically that little bit right there up. And I didn't want to have, I could have put in a regular switch here, okay, crossing on and off. I didn't want to bombard my panel, my fascia, with a whole bunch of toggle switches, because that can get confusing. Somebody, if I had a toggle switch here, somebody could come up, or even right here, and, well, why isn't, oh, okay, that way, okay, that's a toggle switch, that's a keyed switch. That was kind of the reason why I decided to go that route. And so far, I haven't had any issues. I've had some of these, like this one, and I don't have them on my lower level yet, but my lower level, I do have one actually down here, which is for this switch right here. And that's a main line. But eventually, when I get more of my slow motion switch machines in, I will be putting in more keyed switches, just on the main lines. I don't want, if somebody's working a siding or spurs, I don't want them to have to worry about are they unlocked and stuff. Yes, in the real life they do, but I'm just thinking main lines. So so that's keyed switches. Look them up. Like I said, I got them off Amazon. They weren't that expensive. And once I got them in and realized that they were going to work like I wanted, I ordered some extras to make sure I had them in case they wear out or whatever, because it is actually inside a mechanical switch. So, and we all know switches, whether toggle or that style, they will wear out. All right. So in one of our latest audio podcasts, I was talking about circuit breakers. I believe it's actually the episode 82 that's coming out next week. But I finally got some circuit breakers in. I separated my upper level from my lower level. I'm going to try that first. If I decide down the road that I want to separate, I've thought about it, separating each level into its own, but that's a lot more logistics. But basically all I did was I made sure my upper level was separate from my lower level, and that was easy. Back over here where the track comes to the second level and it hits the top, I decided that was the best part or best point. I cut gaps in my rails, put styrene in, glued it in, basically formed it to the profile of the track, and I have it separate. The bottom is completely separate. Coming out of the power system, my Digitrack system, I have my rail A and rail B. It goes into a splitter I made. And I have one down here in the bottom, which I don't think you can see. I have the LEDs here, but right here you can see I've got the LEDs. These are DCC specialties. These are old ones I had from my old railroad. I just happen to have 2 of them. But it's through Tony's Train Exchange. They make newer versions of them and with more options. These are just basic circuit breakers. These, if you arc across your rails, so and I opted to put these, do not come with these LEDs in there. I opted to put LEDs in. So this green light you can see here is showing track power is on. Now don't do this at home purposely, because it does add wear and tear on your system, but I'm going to arc the upper part here and see how it turned to yellow. So I know, okay, if everything stops, I know I got a short, but as soon as it goes away. Now, unfortunately, you couldn't see the bottom track, the LED, which is not working for some reason. I must have, but anyways, it's the same. Now watch, I'll arc the bottom. And while this one's yellow down here, the upper's still working. So that is where it's good if you have power districts, or if you start getting into a bigger layout. Let's say I was just doing a single level layout. I still would probably separate it half and half in one form or another. There are several ways you can do it. We're not going to get into that on this. On power districts, that will be for down the road. Of maybe how and why and that kind of thing. Like I said, the audio podcast, episode 82, I believe it is, that's coming out next week. Model Railroad Talk, we talk about it. So definitely check that out. So as you can see, there's been quite a bit of work going on. Not as much as I'd like on the railroad since our last update, but I have got in my track. We did do a live. I got in my track, but the track I ordered, which is the Micro Engineering Code 83, for some reason on Micromark, it was less expensive than the weathered track. And so I started getting it laid, some of it laid in. I got my FastTracks turnout here that we just talked about. I've got my curved ones coming in, and I've got track laid up to this point. We're going to assume, and I'll kind of show you here, but there's my stack of track. I'll show you. This is kind of a view from this end. It's just the stubbed end yard. And bear with me because I'm holding my tablet. These two tracks this is actually going to be an industry back here, and then this is the yard right here. It's going to be a 5-track yard, and the purpose of this double crossover is these two tracks are going to be inbound, outbound. So if when the local pulls a train in, or either the local or the transfer, let's put it that way, they can jump over. There's enough room to get over onto depending on which track they come in on, they can get over and get off their train, and then the local switcher can come in and do its thing. That, as you can see, is where the double crossover is going to go. I've got track up to this point. I've got to get all my turnout, I should say switch machine stuff underneath here figured out before I actually lay that down. But as you can see, I ran out of my, let's see here. Yeah, right there. Atlas Code 83 track here and here. So I had to go this route of the Micro Engineering, which, if you're wondering, you can clearly tell the difference between the Atlas and the Micro Engineering. Not necessarily height, because they're both Code 83, but the weathered rail and the ties on this are they're not as tall as this. The flange at the bottom, where it connects to the tie plates, in a sense, on the ties, they're not as thick, and the profile of the rail head or rail is not as thick as the Atlas. So yeah, it goes around. You can see the first turnout right here that comes in to the inbound, outbound tracks, and then the rest for the rest of the yard. Yes, there's been work on the railroad. I'm excited. I've been doing a little bit at a time. Laying down Micro Engineering track is a little bit different than laying down Atlas. as an example. Because if you put a bend into it, a curve a little bit, it holds its shape. Whereas the Atlas, you can curve it a little bit, or just even a movement, like picking it up and setting it down. It generally go back straight, where the micro engineering, if you do that, you're probably going to have a little curve into it that you have to straighten out. So it definitely takes a little more work, a little more attention to detail and fine tuning to get the micro engineering track laid down. But in the end, so far, I'm happy with the results of it. And cleaning the rail tops off, that's the thing I noticed is when they're weather track, like the entire rail is weathered. You still have to clean off the top of it so you can get electricity, continuity, whatever, between the wheels of the locomotive and the track. But it cleaned off really well. I just use an abrasive eraser. You know, this is basically for erasing pen marks. I do have a less abrasive actual track cleaning eraser that I use. Most generally, this is more for those a little more stubborn spots. And I have a track cleaning car floating around the layout somewhere right there. So, that beep means I don't, my throttle's shutting off. So anyways, I wanted to jump on here. Hope you liked the video, a little bit different than the update. I will be doing an update video probably within the next week. I'm hoping to get, if not all, but a majority of my track finished up laid here in the yard. And I really want to get it, the track feeders wired in, soldered and wired in. And so I can start actually running transfer operations from the lower yard to this upper yard. So thanks for watching. If you're liking our stuff, please consider subscribing. And we're always moving forward and trying to come up with great new content for you, our followers. Also check out our TikTok page, Model Railroad Talk. And look us our audio podcast. We are on all major platforms: Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, so on and so forth. The list goes on. So check us out there. We're going to be actually, from the time of recording this video, tomorrow I'm going to be recording episode 83. And that's going to be, hopefully, if I can get everything worked out, we're going to have a special guest on, and it will be a good episode. So thanks for watching, and remember, keep your train on the tracks.